There are key shifts people make in their retirement investments to help them to have a stable experience when they are no longer working. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about changes people make to their portfolios, the way they view risk, and things they do to have more retirement income in their portfolio. So if you're looking to retire and enjoy that next phase of life, the 5 keys that I'm going to cover today, these 5 shifts, they're timeless and they may help you. Hey everybody, I'm Nick Davis, founder of Brindle & Bay Wealth Management, and I'm here to show you how to retire with calmness and clarity. As always, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I want to give you all 5 points at the very beginning, because I think point number 1 is going to cause your brain to shut off and not want to listen to the rest. But it's important, so I'm going to cover them, and I want you to know that the other points are important. So the 5 points are, the first one is these people, they have a due north. They've created a due north. So that's their financial plan. It helps them to battle the media and all the things that don't really matter. The second thing these people have done is they shift their portfolio objective to growth of income. And I'll explain what that means here in a bit. The third shift is their view on risk to years of income. Years of income. And that's an interesting little trick that you can use to help yourself during very volatile times, and we'll go over that. Next is a shift on their view of equities from being the casino to being something that combats inflation. And then lastly, they use dividends to pad their portfolios. So I'm going to go into all 5 of these. First one is kind of boring, but the rest of them are a little bit more interesting. Also, there's a white paper in the video description detailing all of this and more if you want to download it. All right, so the first point is create a due north. Retirement investors who are successful know where they're headed, especially because the media wants to distract us all 24/7. They'll do and say whatever it takes to get us to click, read, and watch. And a lot of times those fearful things that we see have nothing to do with where we're headed as a retired person. You see, successful people, they have a plan for where they want to go. If you ask an airline pilot to show you their flight plan, they're probably not going to tell you things about the make and model of the plane and the music you're going to listen to. It's probably more about getting from point A to point B. And I would just suggest to you that the media really talks about the make and model of the plane and not so much about getting from point A to point B. So the things that are important to you are more about your purpose, because your portfolio, your life shouldn't start in your portfolio. It should start at what is your purpose, what is your plan, and then your portfolio. Your portfolio should be supporting your main purpose. So that the media is saying has a lot less to do with your purpose than you think. So the foundational questions are things like, where do you want to go? When do you want to retire? Who do you want to spend your time with? How much is it going to cost? Why do you want to do that? Those are all the things that go into this boring thing we call a financial plan. But I can tell you that the most successful retirees constantly return back to their due north. So got the boring one out of the way. That was the first of 5. The second one is they shift their portfolio objective to growth of income. You see, they go from growth of your savings, which is what most people are thinking, to growth of income. The reason we can conclude this is that when you ask somebody about what their greatest fear is, they'll tell you that it's the fear of running out of money. And then if you ask them, what's the purpose of your investment portfolio? They tell you it's to preserve principal. Well, I've got news for you, that those two things kind of butt heads against each other, especially when you're trying to fund your lifestyle. Preserving principal, not running out of money in a world where Cheerios cost $5 right now, and over the next 25 years, Cheerios will cost $12 for the box. And so will everything else, right? So the purpose for your portfolio primarily should be to grow your income. So you want to make a shift mentally from thinking about growing your savings into growing your income. And in a moment, I'm going to show you ways to practically do that. But first, it would be pointless to try to talk to you about growing your income if we don't talk to you about risk and how you manage risk, which is the third shift people make. They shift their view on risk to years of income. And this is a tremendously helpful tactic, really, because it helps during volatile times. Short-term volatility is where we make the biggest mistakes. And the way that we view risk can really affect how we respond in those difficult times. So the barometer for risk is typically how many risky assets do you have versus less risky assets. So if you have a 70-30 portfolio, 70% equities, 30% fixed income, then that means that you're a moderate aggressive investor. You might say, well, how would I have done in a bear market? So you might look at 2008 and say, well, a 70-30 would have went down about 24%. So if you lose a quarter of your lifetime savings, you might want to run for the door if you view your portfolio like I have 70% risky assets. Well, successful people don't do that. What they do, the ones who have more calmness and clarity in their retirement, is they view it as years of income. So they'll take the amount of fixed assets, the less risky, volatile assets, and they'll divide it into how much money they're actually spending. So in this example, there's 30% fixed assets, which are less risky in most years, not in recent years, and they'll divide that by the distribution rate. So let's pretend they're taking 4% out. So 30% divided by 4%, that's 7.5 years of fixed income assets that they have, and that can help them to wait for things to recover. Knowing how many years of fixed income or less volatile assets you have can really go a long way during bear markets. And for reference, the second worst bear market in U.S. history was in 2007. The peak, which was the top, was at the October of 2007. And when you look at how long it took for it to come back, it was about 5.5 years to get back to equal. So the obvious key here is to avoid big mistakes during bear markets. Making this shift to viewing things from a years of income perspective can really help. And you got to remember your own comfort level matters as well. We work with people to help them find their own number. I would encourage you to figure out what your own number is as well, which leads me to the next shift that people have, and that is their view of equities from being a casino to in combating inflation, right? Everybody knows stocks feel uncertain. That's the reputation that they have. However, your goal is to increase your income in retirement over the years, and equities can go a long way to help with that. In fact, the narrative that equities show us is actually the opposite of what its reputation is. So if we were to go back and just look at the most recent 30 years, let's say we go back to 1993, we can see that there's a much different story told than just the uncertainty that stocks or equities provide. So if you had $1 million in January of 1993, and 75% of that were in equities, you'd want to ask the question, how's the dividend income? Because I'm looking for growth of income. And how's my balance during the same period? Well, in 1993, the $750,000 portion of the portfolio would have produced about $22,000 in dividend income. Fast forward through 2022, that same account would be producing about $115,000 in dividend income. That's extraordinary. By the way, see the citations in the video description to learn more about that. Read the white paper if you'd like to. Now, if you took those dividends as cash during those 30 years and spent them and never reinvested them, how much would the equities be worth? Now, $6.7 million through 2022. Remember, the goal is to grow your income in retirement to meet or exceed inflation so you can afford your box of Cheerios in 20 years. And having a portfolio full of dividend income plus low volatility assets to provide years of income can really go a long way to help with that goal. And lastly, the shift that people make is they use dividends to pad their portfolios. So remember, we're trying to fund a lifestyle for 25 or 30 years that can keep up with inflation. So we need something that can consistently help us to grow our income. And dividends over long periods of time tend to outpace inflation. Remarkably, in 1960, there was 3% annual inflation. The S&P 500 paid a cash dividend of $1.98. Fast forward to today, end of 2022, and it's $68.34. That's a compound annual growth of 5.8%. In other words, your dividend income would have almost doubled the rate of inflation throughout all sorts of market conditions. Now, in this video, I've used a lot of terms that you really, as a retired person or close to retirement, you don't need to worry about, but the goal is to encourage you to be able to experience that next chapter with calmness and clarity. And so these are encouraging things to know. Make that shift, to have that due north, make that shift around the way you view risk in terms of years of income. Understand the role that equities play in your portfolio for the long term, and appreciate the work that dividends do, especially in a world with all the words we're hearing about inflation in the news all the time. Let me know in the comments if these tips have helped you, or maybe you've already understood these things and they've been an encouragement to you during your retirement years. Looking forward to seeing what you think about all this. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you'd like to see the way that we help people to create calmness and clarity for their next chapter of life, take a look at us at brindleandbay.com. Again, thanks for watching the videos. Please remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time a new video comes out.